not funny.
Hey everyone, just taking a quick 15 seconds to let you know that my new book, The Fitness Mindset, Eat for Energy, Train for Attention, Manage Your Mindset, Reap the Results, which hit the bestseller list within 24 hours of its release, is now available to buy on Amazon. So if you're looking for everything you need to get into incredible shape and the mindset to keep it forever, be sure to check it out. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Welcome to Keane Fitness Podcast, where we talk everything fitness, nutrition and mindset with your host Keane.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Keane Fitness Podcast. We talk everything fitness, nutrition and mindset to help you with your goals. Today's episode is a Q&A, and I pulled the questions from across my different social media platforms. So my Snapchat, BrianK019, and my Instagram, Keane Fitness, are kind of the main two platforms I took these questions from. So a massive thank you to everybody who sent these in on Instagram Live or on my DM on Instagram or through my Snapchat Q&As on BrianK019. So first question comes in from Connor Dalton 18. Should you have a cheat meal once per week or a cheat day every few weeks? So the long and the short of this is it's going to be whatever works best for you and knowing your personality type, and then dependent on the training program and nutrition plan you're on. So I can make pros and cons and arguments for both. Personally, I'm a big fan of having a small refeed or a free meal. I'm not a massive fan of the word cheat meal purely because there's a negative connotation. Again, it depends on each person. If you have a minimally unhealthy relationship with food, I would relabel that as a free meal so that you don't have this horrible association with certain foods and you think that you have a cheat or sins and then you actually have to diet extra hard the following day or train extra hard the whole week just because you had a quote-unquote cheat meal. So there's arguments for both. Strategic refeeds where you're having a full day of cheating can work tremendously well for people that have been doing massive calorie restriction for a long period of time and can reset your metabolism so it doesn't stall. The reason that people use refeeds or cheat meals or cheat days is two reasons. One is metabolic and physiological reasons, that if you go low carb or low calorie for too long, your body gets what's called a metabolic adaptation and it adapts to being in that low calorie deficit or low calorie restriction, and you'll stall your fat loss plateaus. So when you have a cheat meal, it can reset this, it can spike up your metabolism again, and you can continue to lose more body fat and continue moving forward. The same idea is with a cheat day. If you go 2, 3, 4 weeks without any cheat food and you have a full day, it works very similarly in terms of resetting your metabolism. So finding what works better is largely going to be down to the nutritional plan you're following, your own personality type, and whatever works best for you. The other side of a cheat day or a cheat meal is the psychological side, that if you're eating clean all week, that you have that free meal. That's why I like to call it a free meal, because it's something that just isn't on your plan that you'll enjoy having. For example, some people in my online BKF program will have, a few glasses of wine and they'll go out for dinner with their partner, their boyfriend, their girlfriend, their husband or their wife. Other people will go and have a takeaway. I'm not a massive fan of fast food because of trans fatty acids, but for some people that will work because they'll eat super clean all week and then they'll have their pizza at the weekend because that's the thing they crave the most. Again, if you're unsure about how trans fatty acids work, be sure to check out that section in my best-selling book, The Fitness Mindset. I talk about how trans fatty acids aren't recognized by the body and they get shuttled into your stubborn fat stores because your body doesn't recognize what they are. Trans is the Latin for opposite side. So if you see the chemical makeup of a fatty acid, the trans fatty acid literally has an upside down hydrogen ion on it, so your body doesn't recognize what that is. Trans fatty acids are in fast food, so they're in takeaways and in Chinese food and Indians and any deep fried foods. So avoiding these can just speed up your body's ability to lose body fat faster. However, some people will stay super clean all week and they'll use that as their free meal or their cheat meal because that's what keeps them on track. So it's not a case of one size fits all. That's largely down to personal preference. So what I would advise you do, whether a cheat day or a cheat meal once a week, is see what works best for you and your personality type. If you're training super hard all week and you have a good training output and you're working for tension style training, you're tearing down fibers and elevating your metabolism so you're burning more calories at rest, you're doing high intensity cardio so you're getting your heart rate at 70% or above, which is 220 minus your age, so you're in your quote unquote fat burning zone. If you're doing that all week, having your free meal once a week is going to keep you psychologically on track, knowing that, well, I can go out on Saturday night and have a few drinks, or I can go out on Saturday night and have a at dinner and not feel worried about counting the calories or sticking to my normal plan. That may be what works best for you. You may be someone of the personality type that's like, right, I'm going to grind for 4 weeks and then I'm just going to have one complete refeed day. That's called a strategic binge, and that can work tremendously well for people. A lot of people in contest prep will do this, where they'll go really strict for 6, 7, 8 weeks. Some will have no cheat meal, and then they'll have a massive cheat meal after their competition or their photo shoot, and they'll end up using what's called super compensation, where you refuel your glycogen stores. You have so much energy from all the sugars and crappy food you've eaten that you can work your weaker body parts for the following few days and get an amazing pump. And in theory, or again in practice more so, people will feel that they're bringing up their weaker body parts because they're having better training sessions because of the refeed and the strategic binge from dieting very strict for 6, 7, 8 weeks and then having their cheat day. So it's not a case of one size fits all. My advice would be, have a think on your personality type. My personal preference is once a week. People that come through my programs, my BKF online program, my GA Lean Body program, there's a free meal in there once a week, because you're training hard all week. You're sticking to everything else. You're getting your glycogen stores full as a GA athlete before your games. You're eating clean, your calorie carb cycling during the week on my online BKF program. And then having that free meal just gives you that little bit of leniency every single week. And especially when you're training hard and doing the right program that's based around your specific goals, having that once a week meal is something to kind of look forward to. Again, I don't want to promote an unhealthy connotation with certain meals and certain foods, but if you're doing everything on track all week, having that to look forward to, I know keeps me on track, and a lot of people I work with are similar. However, you may be of the personality type that wants to go balls to the wall for 4 weeks and then have your cheat day. So I would trial both, see what works best for you, and then double down on that. Next question comes in from Chris Joyce 1994 on Instagram. Lacking motivation at the minute, any tips? Okay, so I'm going to approach this one from a couple of angles, because motivation is one of these things that I don't think motivation works long term. And I'm going to explain that now, because some people are listening going, I don't know what you mean. I think motivation by and large is bullshit. I think you can put on a good song that you like and you can get jacked up and revved up and motivated. I don't think that keeps you on track long term. I think the thing that keeps people motivated long term, and I've talked about this in my book, The Fitness Mindset, for those of you who have read it, and I've spoke about it on other podcast episodes, is having a strong why, knowing why you're doing it, and then creating daily habits every single day that allows you to stick to that end goal. So when you know what the end goal is, when you find your why and you have your reason for doing it. So again, I spoke about in my book that my why is my little girl, my reason for getting up at 6 a.m., my reason for working my 12, 13-hour days and then spending my evenings with Holly. All of these things are down to my why on, well, I want to build a life for her. I never want her to struggle for money like I had to. And I want to build a life for her and be present for her for everything she goes through in her life. Your why may be completely different. My why, when I wanted to get into shape, that I was in fitness model shape, was down to my own unhappiness with the way I looked and trying to be a better version of me. The reason that I read so many books is because I once had a friend call me stupid and wouldn't let me take it. We were supposed to do a test together and he wouldn't allow me to take it because he said I was stupid. He goes, all you can do is lift weights. And that resonated really, really badly with me at the time, but I reframed it, and it's one of the reasons that I read so much now. So it was a blessing in disguise. So having a strong why and then doing the right things every single day is what leads to long-term motivation. If you know what the end goal is, and that again is completely relative. That may be getting into a new job. That may be finding a boyfriend or a girlfriend. That may be getting into amazing shape. That may be becoming an amazing mother or father. Whatever your why looks like for you, what you have to do then is hold that picture in your mind and then build the daily habits and consume the things that are going to support that end goal for you. Motivation comes from progress. Progress is addictive. I know people that come through my programs, the only reason they're able to stick to it is because they're progressing constantly. My BKF online program, and I'll use that because it gives context to this answer, we change up the workouts on week 3 and week 6 so that people are constantly progressing and moving past fat loss plateaus. The truth is, you'll get about 6 weeks out of any program before you have to change it and your body starts to metabolically stall and you just hit a wall and a plateau. But I change it up on week 3 and week 6 so that doesn't happen and you nip it before it comes. So keeping progress is what will keep you motivated long term. But that comes from having the target. That comes from knowing what your why is. You can't hit a target you can't see. So when you know what the end goal is, whatever that looks like for you, it's putting the daily steps in place that allows you to fulfill that version of you. So creating daily habits. greatness, I love the Aristotle quote that greatness is not an act, greatness is what we repeatedly do, so it's effectively a habit. So, or to paraphrase his quote, so what you do every single day will create the life that you have. And that comes from the thoughts you put into your mind, the people you consume, the podcasts you listen to, the books that you read, the TV shows that you watch. All of these things are putting thoughts and seeds into your mind that are going to plant there, and they're going to lead to the actions you take. The actions you take will dictate the entire direction of your life. If you're not happy with an end result and you're not motivated because you're not getting progress, you have to go back to the source and figure out, well, why don't I have what I want? So you reverse engineer it. There's a reason that, and I use this as context because this is the area of my life that I struggle with. There's a reason that I'm not strong on the relationship side of things, that I'm not married, I don't have a partner, and my little girl and my mom are the two closest people in my life because I've doubled down on them. The reason that I don't have that is I haven't become the person that I need to be in order to become an amazing partner for somebody. I haven't put those thoughts into my head. My thinking time, and for those of you who've read the book, when I say take control of your thinking time, for those that have anxiety or worry, the thoughts you put into your head when you're on your own, what you think you become. So when I'm on my own free thinking time, I'm thinking about, well, how can I be a better dad for Holly? How can I spend more time with my mum? How can I scale and build my business so I can help more people? How can I make sure that I'm able to make these investments so I never have to worry about money for me or Holly ever again? They're the things that consume my thoughts when I'm left to my own devices. I'm not thinking about how can I be the best boyfriend, how can I be the best husband? So when you go back to the source and you're not putting those thoughts into your mind, you're not going to get that end result. So I use that to give context to, if you want to change your body composition, if you're not doing the things every single day that are going to support you becoming the person that you want to look like or become the person that you want to be, if you're not doing that on a daily basis, if you're not consuming those podcasts, if you're not reading those books, if you're not hanging out with those people, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you're not surrounding yourself with like-minded people who are helping you become a better version of you, and those people, when I say 5, average of the 5 people, that includes the people you follow on social media. If you're consuming an hour of my content every day, I'm probably one of your 5 people. You know, I listen to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk. I did a lot of work with Tony Robbins, people like that, and it's not a coincidence that their thoughts become my thoughts because I'm consuming their information. That's what happens. When I talk about mentorships and surrounding yourself with the people that you want to be like, you don't have to be with them physically. That's consuming their content. That's being around their information, reading their books, listening to their podcasts, watching their videos. So if you're unhappy with where you are and you're not motivated, it's down to not progressing, because when you progress and you have your ladder up against the right wall and you're gradually climbing step by step, we get ahead, not necessarily in fast spurts. If you're gradually climbing the right ladder to where you want to be, you get motivated as a result because you see the progress. So my answer to this question on how to get motivated is, to get motivated, you just plug in a song that you like, but that wears off after 3 or 4 minutes. For long-term motivation, it's about progressing. Progress is addictive. So find your strong why, put the daily habits in place that allows you to become that inversion of you, and then consume all the information that supports that end goal until you have what you want. Okay, next question comes in from Corey Broderick. How many carbs a day to lose body fat? Okay, so it doesn't really matter in terms of how many carbs you take in each day to lose body fat. Depending on your metabolism, depending on your specific goals, depending on your overall nutrition, and depending on your training program. So the truth is, some people can lose body fat on 500 grams of carbs. Other people will lose body fat on 0 grams of carbs. Loads of different factors come into play. So it's not a case of, well, you hit this number of carbs and you'll lose body fat. To lose body fat, you have to get your body into a calorie deficit, which effectively means that you need to eat less calories than your body is burning up. If you're eating too many calories, it's very, very unlikely that you're going to lose weight or lose body fat. So the number one thing is getting into a calorie deficit. After that, it's going to be down to the nutritional plan you're following, the training program you're on, and your own metabolism. Some people metabolize carbohydrates very, very well. Other people don't tolerate them well at all. So it's going to be a case of, well, are you someone that does well with carbohydrates or not? The test that I use, and I always use myself and Paul, who came through my mentorship program, I always use us as 2 examples, because he's a carb person and I'm high in the fat person. If he drops his carbs down below 100 grams, he gets really, really tired, his brain doesn't work as well, and his energy level saps. If I drop my fats low, the same thing happens to me. But I can drop my carbohydrates to 0. As long as my fats stay high and my protein is moderate, I feel amazing. I've had loads of energy, my training sessions are great, and my brain functions amazingly well. Paul is the opposite. He can drop his fats down to 0, and as long as his carbs stay high, he feels amazing. So it's going to be a case of trialing to see what works well for you, and then manipulating your carbohydrates around your lifestyle and around your training program. So the test for this really is drop your carbohydrates for 2 or 3 days down to say 50 grams of carbs and see how you function. If you keep your fats high, if you feel brain dead and you have no energy, you're probably someone that functions pretty well off carbohydrates. Again, this can change depending on insulin sensitivity, insulin resistance, so it can change. But right now, if you trial that and you feel you have no energy, you're probably going to do better off higher carbohydrates. So you want to get into a calorie deficit using higher carbs. If you feel amazing at 50 grams of carbs, and this happens to me, if I drop my carbs to 50 grams and keep my fats high, I feel incredible. I have loads of energy and I just feel really clear even in my head. So try dropping it down and then see what you feel better on. Are you better off high fats or are you better off high carbohydrates? And then you build your plan around that. Again, I'm a massive fan of carb cycling and using your free meals that I spoke about in the first question to refeed your metabolism so that it doesn't stall. So even if you are someone who works well off fats, I would still factor in a refeed every 7, 10, 14 or 21 days so that you're making sure your metabolism never stalls even though your carbohydrates are low the majority of the time. So it's not a case of hit 50 grams of carbs or hit 150 grams of carbs and you lose body fat. To lose body fat, you need to get into a calorie deficit with your nutrition. Then you build your fats, carbohydrates, and protein around that so that you're keeping it in a deficit, which effectively, if your maintenance calories is 2,000, if you eat below 2,000 calories, you should lose weight. You should be able to reduce body fat. Or if you get into a deficit through training, you should be able to lose body fat. What I would advise you to do then with your training is make sure that you're focusing on reducing body fat. You're not taking long rest periods. You're not doing a powerlifting program. You're doing tension style training that's tearing fibers down and elevating your metabolism so you burn more calories while you rest. You're focusing on high intensity cardio that's elevating your heart rate at 70% or above, so you're going to burn more calories during your workout, and then you're in a deficit with your nutritional plan. Any supplements you use then are going to be down towards getting your body fat down. Things like green tea extract that can increase your metabolic rate so you burn more calories during the day. Things like L-carnitine tartrate that can push fat cells into the mitochondria so you burn it as fuel. Things like caffeine, which can increase lipolysis in your body so that you release fat from the cells and you burn through it during your workout. So making sure that everything your training, nutrition, supplements are all geared towards lowering body fat is how you lose body fat. It's not a case of just hitting a certain carb number, because some people will lose body fat on 500 grams of carbs, other people will lose it on 0 grams of carbs. Okay, John Brown lad from Snapchat, is there a quote you live by? Okay, I love this question because this is something that I ask my podcast guests. So any of you that have listened to the podcast episodes where I bring on a guest, this is one of the questions I ask them, because you can tell a lot from a person by the quotes they live by. And I actually have 2. Mine has changed over the last few years because the one that I have to tattoo onto my brain isn't as applicable to me right now as the one that I currently live by. So right now, the one that I live by is step by step we get ahead, but not necessarily in fast spurts. And it's a Charlie Munger quote. Charlie Munger is Warren Buffett's business partner, and they both are in Berkshire Hathaway, which own Coca-Cola. Warren Buffett's one of the richest men on the planet, and Charlie Munger is his business partner. He's my favorite book of all time, after Robert Greene's Mastery, which is my most practical book of all time that I recommend to people, is Poor Charlie's Almanac, which is a pretty expensive book. It's about 60 or 70 euro, but it's the only book that I have that when I finish reading it, I go right back to the beginning and I start again, because every time you read a book and your life is in a different position and in a different place, the messages that jump out at you hit you in a different way. And I've had people that read my book when it came out the first week and they said, I reread the anxiety section today and it hit me today. And I'm like, well, you were obviously in a place where you needed that today. And I did write it with that in mind, because that's what Charlie Munger's book gives me regularly. So step by step you get ahead, and not necessarily in fast spurts. That basically just means that you do the right things every single day and you create the right habits every single day until you get what you want. Fitness taught me a lot of that. Now my priorities have massively changed. My priorities right now are making sure that I'm there for my little girl, that she grows up with the confidence and respect in herself, that she can feel she can go do whatever it is that she was put on this planet to do. That's my why right now. And I know by spending time with her every single day, and I have an incredible relationship with Holly's mum. We're not together, but I have an incredible relationship with Holly's mother. She's one of the closest people that I'm with, and she's an incredible person. And I'm very fortunate that I get to see Holly nearly every single day, and I'm able to impact her life because that's what's important to me. the step-by-step comes in there because it's daily impact of being present with her. I spoke about this in my book, that making sure that when I'm with her. So there's a reason that you only see a couple of Snapchats or a couple of photos with Holly, that I'm not putting every single story up, because I'm trying to be present with her. I'll take a Snapchat when she does something funny, and then I put my phone away for 2 hours and we play together, because I'm trying to be present and build that relationship with her. That's step by step. So that's every single day. And I know over the cumulative effect of 13, 14, 30, 40, 50 years, that's going to add up, that I become one of her go-to people if she ever feels she has a problem. Fitness taught me that. When I started fitness first, I was very impatient at the beginning, and I've spoken on videos and podcasts before that the key to long-term success is to be impatiently patient. Long-term patient, but short-term impatient. That's how I am with everything in my life right now. I'm very, 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 very patient for the long game, 10, 20, 30 years, but day to day, I'm very impatient. I want to get my things done, my videos made, my programs done, support people, make the Q&As, the podcasts, all the things that I love to do. And I'm very impatient that I need to get those done first thing, because I'm trying to help and serve more people. But patient long-term with financial success, legacy, all these other things that you're trying to build, you need to be patient over the long term. And people do the reverse of that, where they're patiently impatient. They're impatient for the long-term goals, but every single day they're spending fucking 4 hours watching Netflix, which is perfectly fine as a deload time, but don't sit and complain that you haven't got the things that you want in life, or that you quote unquote don't have time after you spent and watched 4 hours of fucking House of Cards. If you did that, take ownership of it, and if you're using it as a deload and you're happy with your life, you're 100%, you keep doing what you're doing. But if you're somebody that wants to achieve something else, and you're spending your free time numbing out to TV, or numbing out to Love Island, or numbing out to watching 4 back-to-back games, and again, I'm speaking from someone that was there. I had a season ticket when I was at Arsenal when I lived in London, and I literally knew everybody on the reserve and youth team, because I was living vicariously through them, because I wasn't happy with my life. I was going to all their games, and I spent my weekends talking about what Arsenal were doing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when I took a step back and realized, you know what, I'm actually not happy with where my life is, and that's why I'm living vicariously through my team, I was able to step back and go, you know what, I have to change something here. So that comes down to step by step, because if I was doing that every single weekend, I was doing that every single day when we played Champions League, and I would build my life around what my team were doing. So I knew exactly what, the person on the bench was doing, or what our starting lineup would be for Saturday, but I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know how to help people. All the things that I do now is just a cumulative effect of how I spend my days. So my biggest advice to anybody is do the things every single day that add up to long-term success. In fitness, that's making the right food choices. That's doing a little bit every single day, a little bit of exercise, a little bit of a better food choice with healthier options. Adding that up over the long term is going to lead to a different body. It's going to lead to a different mind, because you're conditioning yourself to do things a certain way. And one of the reasons that I loved competing so much, and not so much the body dysmorphia and all the things that I spoke about in other episodes, but the conditioning it gave me to do the things you have to do every single day, and here's the end result. When you stepped up on stage, or you stepped in front of a camera for a professional photo shoot, that was just a byproduct of the way you had lived your life for the 6 months before that. That's a metaphor for everything in life. If you want a better physique, if you want a new job, if you want a healthy relationship, if you want a better relationship with your mother, your father, your daughter, your son, it's what you do every single day that counts. But step by step we get ahead, not necessarily in fast spurts. So my biggest advice is create the daily habits every single day to become the inversion of the person that you want to be. And then by vicariously, or by the end of the result after 6, 12, 18 months, you'll become that person, because reality catches up with that inversion of you. I spoke again in the book about becoming the person you want to be, and then waiting for reality to catch up. And that happens from doing the right things every single day. If you hate your job and you want to become a personal trainer, or a makeup artist, or a hairdresser, or whatever it is that you're passionate about, again, I use these trades because there's something that when I talk to people that are in those fields, they're very passionate about what they love. When you want to make that switch, it's what are you doing every single day? Are you building your social media? Are you building your knowledge in that field and area? Are you reading the right books? Are you consuming the right information? Or are you watching 6 hours of Love Island, or watching 7 hours of Netflix, when you could be watching 1 or 2 hours of those things, spending the other 5 living towards and working towards the things that you want to achieve long term? So right now, the quote that I live by is step by step I get ahead, but not necessarily in fast spurts. Okay, I'm going to break that one up into 2, because this quote I don't live by as much anymore because I've largely came out the other side. But it was one that I had printed on my whiteboard on my wall for nearly 2 years because it's something I struggled with so much. And some of you that have been following my social media, my Facebook, my Instagram, you've seen me mention this regularly. And that is, comparison is the thief of joy. That was my biggest issue for so long. I put a lot of, and I've taken ownership of this, and I've taken acceptance that it was me that felt this way. But when I was competing and I was walking around at my biggest and walking around at my leanest, and my body dysmorphia and the way I looked was at the absolute height, I walked around and I was at my most insecurest. It was the only time when I'd look on social media and go, oh, I don't like that guy, or I hate that guy. And it was purely a projection of my jealousy onto them. And I'm a big fan of the quote that jealousy is the tribute mediocrity pays to genius. And that's where I was at. I was literally jealous of the way that other people looked because I was comparing where I was at with where they were at. And I took ownership of that. And since then, and since I took the step back and realized that all of my anxiety, all of my worry, all the stress, all the insecurities, all the dysmorphia, all the things that came from me were down to me comparing myself against other people, which were other external things. The truth is, when you put your happiness into an external thing, you're never going to be happy. I love the Seneca quote that if you live your entire life according to your nature, you'll always be happy. If you live your entire life according to other people's opinions, you will never be happy. And that comes down to a comparison, working within society, that you need to be like that person, or you need to look like this guy, or you need to look like that girl. As somebody who's been through it, that has been through the anxiety side, has been through the body dysmorphia, who came out the other side stronger as a result, and it's one of the reasons that this quote has been tattooed on my brain, and I thankfully don't need to look at it as much anymore, is down to the fact that all of my unhappiness in life largely came from my comparison with other people. If you're somebody that you're going onto social media and you're looking at a girl who subjectively looks 10 times better than you, for example, or you're looking at a guy who's way bigger than you, that has a hotter girlfriend, or whatever the thing that wells the insecurity up within you, you need to take ownership of. You have decided to consume that information. You've decided to follow that person. You've also decided to take that unhappiness and let that well up within you, and then let it metamorphosize or let it transcend into a feeling of anxiety, worry, or insecurity, or not being good enough. That's down to what you put into your own mind. That's why I tell people, and I fall into this bracket, if you're following my social media and you're looking and I'm making you feel bad about yourself, I'm like, unfollow me. I do not want to be one of those people that makes you feel worse as a result of following my content. If I'm not supporting you, then by all means unfollow me. Literally, the reason I put out the content that I put out is to try and help more people. If I'm not doing that for you on a consistent basis, or I'm making you feel bad about yourself, you can unfollow me. But the only thing I will ask of you is do that with absolutely everybody across social media. Anyone that's making you consistently feel bad because of your own insecurities, or that you seem that their life seems to be better than yours, you need to take ownership of the fact you've consumed that information. And once you get past a certain point and you realize that you're happy within yourself, and you realize that happiness comes from within and it's not from an external thing, you can go back and follow those accounts again. That won't make you feel bad. Everything is a projection of the way you feel. I know myself, when I unfollowed people on social media and I felt bad about the way I looked, it was down to me projecting my insecurities onto them. So anytime you say, well, I hate that person, or oh, they use steroids, or they use fat burners, or they use whatever, remember that's coming, that's your ownership, that's your insecurity projecting onto them. So when you take ownership of that and you realize that all of your misery is coming from the comparison to other people, it can massively free you and be one of the most releasing things that you do in your life. And I'm speaking as someone who came out the other side of it. And for those of you who've read my book, you saw in the mindset section how I dealt with it and the step-by-step process that I did and the tips that I offered. And that's basically one of them, that make sure you take conscious effort of the things you put into your mind and make sure they support the inversion of you. So that's the other one. Step by step you get ahead, but not necessarily in fast spurts. I live my daily life right now by, but comparison is the thief of joy was the one that I had tattooed on my brain. It was on my wall for 2 years until I internalized it and realized that all my misery came when I compared myself to others and what they were doing. Okay, so a bit of a mixture of an episode again today. Hopefully you got loads of value from it. For more information on me or my programs, my BKF online program, my G18 body program, head over to the website www.briankeanefitness.com. My Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube's all Brian Keane Fitness. My Snapchat, BrianK019. Thank you to Colm over at Voxana who puts together my podcast episodes. Thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading. Catch you all soon.